Will the Avengers Doomsday trailer be released in theaters only and not online? When is the Spider-Man Brand New Day trailer going to drop? Are Paramount Skydance out of the running to buy Warner Brothers? And where the hell is the Champions movie or show or whatever the hell it ends up being? Those are your burning questions that I have selected for this edition of Ask Colton. Hey everybody, Colton here, and this is the mailbag style show where I take your questions about Marvel, Star Wars, DC, movies and streaming in general. Whatever you want to ask, send it in to the email address askcoltonnow@gmail.com, link in the description below. And hey, maybe you'll see your question featured right here on the show. And guys, I get a lot of questions sent to the mailbag, and I wish I could answer every single one of them, but sometimes I just can't get to them all. But if you are a channel member, that will guarantee that you get one of your questions answered for each episode of the show. So if you want to support the channel in that way, it is very much appreciated, makes it possible for us to keep doing the show, and it puts your question at the top of the list to be answered right here on the channel. Also, a reminder that the show is now on Spotify, Apple Podcast, all the podcasting places where you get your podcasts. So please, if you got a sec, give the show a download. It really helps us out a lot. All right, our first question comes to us from Terry Colton. Do you think that the Avengers Doomsday trailer being released with Avatar Fire and Ash means that it will have an exclusive theater-only release like Star Wars The Phantom Menace trailer, or can we expect it to drop online the same day Avatar comes out? All right, really great question. So the Avengers Doomsday trailer, it is dropping in December alongside Avatar 3, something I called like over 2 months ago, and everyone doubted me. They said, no, it'll drop with the Super Bowl. Look, never doubt Colton, okay? You never doubt the Colton. Unless it's something important, then totally doubt me and do your research. So anyway, yes, we do have confirmation that the Doomsday trailer is releasing with Avatar 3, and I've seen many speculating that this means that the trailer will only be in theaters for the first few days, or maybe even the first week of Avatar Fire and Ash's release, and to that I say, nonsense. I get it. Some are thinking that Disney is banking on an exclusive Avengers Doomsday trailer, luring in even more people to come see Avatar opening weekend. And sure, that has probably crossed their minds, at least a few executives' minds. But guys, it's Avatar. Okay, the two previous Avatar films grossed over $2 billion, and they didn't need an Avengers trailer in front of them to get to that point. So while a Doomsday trailer may very well get a few hundred, maybe even a few thousand extra asses in seats opening weekend, I seriously doubt that Disney is going to keep the Doomsday trailer theaters only for really any amount of time. Here's why. I know that nearly 30 years ago, they released the Phantom Menace trailer exclusively in theaters, and that resulted in a lot of people going to see the movie. I can't remember which movie it was. Comment down below. But it resulted in a lot of people going to see that movie, buying tickets to see that movie just to watch the Star Wars trailer. But guys, that was 30 years ago. The movie theaters were really the only place that you saw movie trailers. They weren't being dropped on YouTube, and if you wanted to download them online, it took hours to do so. And while there may have very well been, some people who snuck in their giant ass camcorders to the theater and recorded the trailer, it's not like there was a YouTube or a Twitter or whatever for them to upload that footage to. Now, things are just different, man. Everyone has a 4K camera in their pocket and they can upload 4K video to the World Wide Web in seconds. So if Disney drops this Doomsday trailer in theaters only, millions of people's first experience, their first look with the Doomsday trailer will not be on the big screen. It will be cam footage on YouTube and on Twitter and whatever else. And is that really, that's my question, is that really what you want, Disney? For the first Doomsday trailer, for everyone's first look at what you've got cooking, you want it to be seen by millions of people for the first time off of a cell phone recording? I don't think so. So I fully anticipate that the Doomsday trailer, it will be released online either the same Thursday night, opening night for Avatar, or at the latest, they drop it Friday morning. But again, if they wait to drop that trailer until Friday morning, that trailer would have already been seen by millions via cam footage. And I don't think that that's what Feige, Marvel, or Disney want for this film. But hey, that's just me. Let me know. Do you guys think that the Doomsday trailer will get a theaters only release, kind of like what they recently did with that Christopher Nolan Odyssey trailer? Or is Doomsday just too big of an event to kick off a marketing campaign without dropping the trailer online? That's definitely what I'm leaning toward. Now, while we're on the topic, I thought we would take a little bit of time to talk about what I hope to see in this first trailer or teaser or whatever it's going to end up being. I think it's going to be very Doom focused. I think that we're going to hear RDJ probably narrating the trailer. And I think that this trailer, it really needs to it needs to paint Doom as the hero of the story, but also give him like this menacing, like matter-of-fact presence that gives us a sense of dread. And, it's kind of like what they did with Thanos. Like, Thanos was obviously the bad guy, but he seemed, at least in Infinity War, to be a little, like, sympathetic. And I think that's some things that we can see there with Doom. But I could honestly see Doom being even more brutal and to the point and extremely arrogant, like Tony. Also in the trailer, I think we're probably going to get like some quick shots and flashes of the rest of the cast. Not the whole cast. Well, maybe. At least probably maybe they show all 27 that have been announced. Maybe they take this opportunity to confirm that there's some other people in it. I do think we totally see Loki. In fact, I like the idea of the trailer opening like with Loki and him like sensing Doom from his chair at the end of time. We could pick up with the Fantastic Four post-credit scene and Doom taking Franklin, and we'll see Sue and Reed and Johnny and Ben's reaction to him taking Franklin. We'll probably see that shot from Thunderbolts with the Fantastic Four rocket coming into the MCU. Maybe we see the Fantastic Four and the New Avengers meet. I think it's safe to say we aren't going to get like a shit ton of the plot revealed in this first look. That's typically reserved for like trailer 2, about 6 months out from the film's release. Now, I don't know if this is the trailer where we get like glimpses of the X-Men, but dude, if they show Magneto, I might shit my pants. I'm excited for the trailer. So excited. And it's going to be, really great to see. We'll, of course, be covering it and breaking it down in depth over on Screen Crush, and I'll be talking about it ad nauseum over here as well. All right, our next question comes to us from Mia. Mia asks, who do you think will be in the Young Avengers / Champions if that ever actually comes out? And do you think we could be introduced to more people like Iron Lad or Hulkling to round out the team? Or do we have too many teenagers running around in the MCU right now to introduce more? All right, thank you so much for that question. So the Young Avengers, or Champions, or whatever the hell they end up calling this team up of young heroes in the MCU, it is still happening, I think. And it really could be our best chance, I think, at maybe getting another crack at Kang in the MCU, and maybe in that like post Secret Wars era. So the Multiverse Saga, it has introduced us to a lot of new young characters, such as Kamala Khan, America Chavez, Billy and Tommy Maximoff, Hulk's son Scar. I don't know if he's really cool. Got a terrible haircut. We've got Kate Bishop Hawkeye, Riri Williams Ironheart. There's Ant-Man's daughter, Cassie, who is now, is she Stinger? Did they give her a name? Or is she Stature? Something, whatever her name is. She shrinks. And, there's all of these new characters being played by this young cast, and they've been great. I've already picked on Scar, so I won't pick on him too much. We don't really know much about him, except he has a terrible barber. So most of this new cast has been introduced on the small screen, and that's why I think the best place for this story to be told is on the small screen, on Disney+, episodically. And, it's rare that I say that, because most of the time I'm going to tell you it needs to be a movie. But I think a story like this and the coming of age aspect and the time we could spend with each of these characters, watching them grow and learn how to be heroes and dealing with their own personal teenage shit, young adult shit, it can make for a great show. Plus, like I said, they've all, for the most part, been set up on the small screen. Now, in the comics, Vision is like the dad of the group, and we have Vision Quest coming out soon, and I think that it is likely that that show, which is like the third, like, in a loose trilogy with WandaVision and Agatha all along, I think that Vision Quest is going to be setting up like this separate MCU of sorts that takes place only on the small screen. Or I shouldn't say only, but primarily on the small screen, and it has its own interconnectivity and story that doesn't do a ton of crossover with the films post Secret Wars. In fact, it's been reported that Vision Quest is likely going to be one of the last Disney Plus Marvel shows that stars a movie character. But then again, there have been the reports that Jeremy Renner is doing Hawkeye too, so I don't know. They don't know what they're doing. But anyway, we saw in the post-credit scene for, I believe it was yeah, it was the Marvels. For the Marvels, where Miss Marvel is recruiting Kate Bishop Hawkeye for a team that she's putting together. And that's really all we've gotten. I know, shocker. An abandoned post-credit scene setting up something we may not see ever, or at least like for another 6 years since the moment that they show us the post-credit scene. As far as like what I would like to see in a Champions or Young Avengers show, I think I want all of the aforementioned cast, Kamala, Kate, Cassie, Riri, Billy, Tommy, Scar, instead of like bringing in, I think like an Iron Lad character, I do think that Riri could fill that role of Iron Lad. And I think with her being a super genius who was inspired by Tony Stark and Iron Man, and remember in the MCU, Tony Stark is the one who discovered time travel. So I think it'd be neat if we find out that, like in the comics, where Iron Lad was like a young kid variant of Kang, it's more complicated than that, but that's the short of it. He's Kang. It might be cool if they did that with Riri Williams. I mean, we've seen that variants can be different sexes, so maybe that's something they'll do. Maybe she becomes Kang. Now, I know a certain side of the internet's heads just exploded upon me saying that, but I think it could maybe be neat. I don't know. Maybe it's a dumb idea. I don't know. Sue me. I do know that I think Mephisto will have a big role to play in all of this. He was set up already in WandaVision and Agatha All Along, and then big time in Ironheart when we actually see him in the flesh. And I think that Mephisto will have a lot to do with the story of Vision Quest as well, which is exploring the artificial intelligence and soul, how those connect and how they're different and what it means to, exist. I think Mephisto is going to be right in there because we saw him pretty much get into that with that artificial intelligence of Riri's friend in Ironheart, and then he brings her back from the dead. And we've still got a lot to explore there about, what it means to be conscious. I think that Mephisto is playing a hand in all of those different shows, and we could still have a culmination on the way. We could see Mephisto serve as a villain as not only to like the Champions or the Young Avengers, but also to characters like Moon Knight and Werewolf by Night, which they are doing a sequel to. Maybe Daredevil could even come in, and we see him involved in this big like Disney Plus crossover event series where they bring together all of their shows. And I do think that while the MCU after Secret Wars and they do like that reset, I do think that they need to make the shows feel way more connected to the other shows and the movies feel way more connected to the other movies, rather than having the shows and movies feel super connected, and don't have too much crossover between shows and movies, because you never want like a situation where in order to go see a movie, you need to have seen this season of television. It's just not smart to have, a TV show be required viewing in order to go see a movie. Mandalorian and Grogu. So I hope Marvel Studios and Kevin Feige might consider hiring someone to shepherd essentially like a second MCU post Secret Wars that is still 100% the same universe as the movies, but there's like a divide where the movies do their thing and do their crossovers and the shows do their thing and their crossovers. And then, you can throw in like fun nods for the super fans that watch it all, but if you're not somebody who watches every single thing they put out, you don't need to feel like you're lost. I think that's something the multiverse saga kind of struggled with, and hopefully the mutant saga or whatever this next saga after Secret Wars is called, hopefully they don't run into that. But yeah, I hope this show is still happening. I hope it's a show, and I hope it has the same quality as WandaVision and Agatha All Along, and I hope it delivers like a fun, engaging story. All right, thank you so much for that question, Mia. Next, we've got a question from Carson. If Netflix buys Warner Brothers, will they bring back the Snyder-verse since they have a working relationship with Zack Snyder? Could we see his Justice League sequel? And if they do that, does that mean they'll get rid of James Gunn and the new DCU stuff? Okay. Jesus Christ. All right. Warner Brothers, it is for sale. And Netflix is now viewed by some to be the favorite to buy the company, the most likely. So let me explain the order of events that we have happening here. And how that can all impact DC. So David Ellison of Skydance, which just bought Paramount, he wants WB bad, despite him recently pretending that they could take it or leave it, and oh, it's not a big deal. It's a total negotiation tactic and a way to save face if it begins to look more and more like Skydance Paramount won't be the winning bidder for WB. So this sale of WB, it has sparked a lot of like discourse online, a lot of discussion about, what happens if Skydance buys WB? What does that mean for DC Studios? Does James Gunn get shit canned, and does the DCU get rebooted once again? To that, I've been very clear, no, of course not. James Gunn and this new DCU, they are one of many crucial assets that WB has right now. One of the top, valuable assets that they have. And Ellison, Skydance, they would be crazy to just toss that in the trash. And I was proven right on that because Ellison has come out and said that he very much wants to keep James Gunn and the creative team of DC Studios in place. But what did finally get me a little nervous about if they were to buy, because I never wanted them to buy Warner Brothers in the first place, and I'll talk about that a little bit in a second, but I was never actually worried that it would mean that James Gunn and the DCU would be in trouble. That was until when David Ellison managed, like a week or two ago, I think it's been like 2 weeks now, he managed to run off Paramount's most crucial asset, one of their top dogs over there at Paramount, one of their golden whatevers, a golden duck or something, golden goose, geeses, Taylor Sheridan, the creator of Yellowstone, Landman, Wind River, Sicario, Mayor of Kingstown, Hell or High Water. I could go on. He's brilliant. And even if his stuff's not for you, which all of his stuff's, not for me, a lot of it is. I like a lot of what he's done. He's really never missed. And he has made Paramount a shit ton of money. This dude is Paramount Plus. So Ellison losing this guy upon his acquisition of Paramount, it's just mind-boggling. Like, that should have been your number one thing to make sure you don't lose. But Ellison, he put pressure on Sheridan to create a very, and I'm not trying to get political here, I don't shy away from politics because I'm worried what you'll think about me or not like my politics. I try not to get too into politics here because I know some of you, or maybe a lot of you, when you're tuning into this show, you're trying to tune out politics for a little bit and not have to think about, the world burning right outside your window. So I don't want to get too political here because I don't want to yuck your yum, but Ellison did pressure Sheridan to create very, and this is not me saying it, it was reported, very right-leaning political content, a political show, a show that really dove into politics. And a lot of Sheridan's stuff is already like conservative coded, like massive, like middle America conservative audiences for Sheridan's stuff. But Ellison wanted to push it further and just go like straight up, right-wing talking points. And Sheridan said no. And this didn't result in Sheridan getting fired. It resulted in Sheridan walking and not renewing his deal with Paramount. And he's now signed a billion with a B dollar deal with Universal. David Ellison's unique ability to run off the most valuable creator Paramount had was the first time that I ever feared for James Gunn and the DCU if they got sold to Skydance. Not because I think that Ellison would fire Gunn. I don't think he's that stupid. Maybe he is. I'm actually worried now because I think that Gunn could want to get the fuck out of there if Ellison comes into DC Studios after buying them and wants to play my dick's bigger than yours and try to change all of Gunn's plans and push a certain agenda on him. That is something. Look, Ellison would have every right to do it as the CEO of the company. But just because you have the right to do it doesn't make it right. And look, I've never been a fan of Ellison and Skydance getting WB. I'm not even a fan of WB selling in the first place. But Ellison and, Skydance's, their capitulation and cozying up to the executive branch to get like, their mergers approved and their continued efforts in like corporate consolidation and the amount of jobs that would be lost if you have the same company owning Paramount and Warner Brothers, what they're doing with CBS and their news division, it's all just gross. And it's a big no for me, them buying WB. I'm not a fan of it. But I've also never been big on the idea of Netflix buying them either, because I don't like the idea of a streaming service owning Warner Brothers, because I'm very committed, as are many of you, to the theatrical experience. And while Netflix has certainly been opening up to the idea of putting their films in theaters more and more, that's super encouraging, but they're a streaming company. They still prioritize streaming. And I don't want WB to eventually just become a studio that makes streaming movies. I don't want that. But, you know, if Netflix, say they do get their hands on WB, let me finally address your question. I do think that would probably be better. Yeah, it'd be better than if Skydance gets it. I think my preference, if I just like absolutely had to pick a company to buy Warner Brothers that was like a realistic choice, would be Apple. They certainly have the money to do it. They're still pretty small when it comes to, like, you know, getting into the movie making, TV making game. So I think that they'd be a good pairing with Warner Brothers, and we might not see like as many layoffs and stuff. And Apple, you know, say what you will about them, they do have like an attention to detail thing. I think they care about things like actually being good. I think we've seen that with their products. So that would be my preference. And as far as the movies go, Apple has produced several films, and they've actually had a good working relationship with Warner Brothers. Anyway, that's my preference. But if Netflix buys Warner Brothers, I've been hearing, you know, Snyder Bros, they think that would somehow mean, oh, the Snyder-verse will be restored because Zack Snyder worked with Netflix to make his Rebel Moon movies and that Las Vegas zombie movie, which I actually quite liked. But guys, Rebel Moon, and I haven't seen Rebel Moon, so I will not dare cast judgment on it or its sequel because I have not seen them. But those movies, they are loathed. And Snyder's DCEU, I'm sorry, it was an epic failure. And I say that as someone who really liked Man of Steel. But that DCEU, and it wasn't just Snyder, it was dead. It was unrecoverable. So no, absolutely not. No way in hell will we see the Snyder-verse restored and the DCU abandoned. Maybe we could see them give like Snyder an outlet to continue his story and like follow up Justice League in like an animated realm on Netflix. That could be neat, maybe, but I don't know that James Gunn would be down for that, simply because he's putting together his own thing. And, you know, why compete with yourself essentially if you're building up to like a similar story? But I guess if it's different enough, like if Gunn's not going right into Justice League, then maybe it would be okay to do like the Snyder Justice League animated. And regardless of if Netflix buys Warner Brothers, I think James Gunn is actually Snyder's best bet at even getting that, because I mean, him and Snyder, they appear to be friendly with each other. They are friendly with one another. But no, to answer the question, the Snyder-verse, the DCEU, Snyder's Justice League 2, it's not happening ever. It's done, okay? Your best bet would be if Netflix or even Gunn without Netflix gave him like an animated series or something to continue the story. And, you know, it just keeps coming back around to Gunn really being the best path forward for any, you know, revisiting of that DCEU, because it's a guy like James Gunn who might be willing to bring in some Snyderverse stuff in like a multiversal story later on. Maybe have Henry Cavill be like a Kingdom Come Superman. I could also see Gunn being willing to like try to bridge this divide in the DC fandom, and it's really not a divide, implies it's like an even split. It's more like 95-5. But anyway, try to bridge like that divide and bring on Zack Snyder to do like some DCU projects. And Snyder and Netflix, having worked together previously, could increase the chances of that happening if Netflix buys Warner Brothers and DC. But for the love of God, you guys, the Snyder-verse, you got to let it go, okay? You got to let it go. It's done. Move on. Get a girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever. Get off the PlayStation, move on with your life, okay? All right. I feel like I'm being a dick, but seriously, you gotta move on. It's a fucking movie. All right, next, we have a question from Kendall. There's all this talk around the Avengers Doomsday trailer and how it's coming in December. But what about the Spider-Man Brand New Day trailer? That movie comes out like 5 months before Avengers Doomsday and 8 months from now. Why are we getting a Doomsday trailer first? All right, thanks so much for the question. And yeah, Spider-Man Brand New Day does come out in like 8 months at the time of this recording, while Doomsday is still another 13 months away. So why are we doing all this Doomsday trailer talk before we even get the Spider-Man trailer? Well, for a few reasons. One, as big as a Spider-Man film is, and as big as this one will be, they're absolutely huge. They're the second most successful of the Marvel franchise, second only to the Avengers. In fact, Spider-Man, the Spider-Man franchise, it has, as a whole, made about $1 billion more total compared to the Avengers franchise. Now, of course, Spider-Man's been going longer and has had more films, but you get the point. Spider-Man, super huge. And the marketing campaign for Spider-Man, it will be huge as well. And we're coming off the nearly $2 billion box office in the midst of a pandemic hit that was Spider-Man No Way Home. So Brand New Day is totally going to be huge. But it's still not an Avengers movie. It's no Avengers Doomsday. A movie like Avengers Doomsday, it calls for a teaser trailer at the 1 year out point. It's an event that, despite it having yet to be confirmed, will almost certainly include Spider-Man. And it's just a bigger thing. It's an event film, and so is Spider-Man, but you guys know what I mean. It's a bigger thing. And these types of films, like Avengers or like Star Wars The Force Awakens at the time, they released their teaser a year out. They are just marketed a little bit differently. Now, a few years ago, it would have perfectly normal for a Spider-Man movie or a movie like Spider-Man, or really any, like sci-fi or action, adventure type movie, like in this realm of fandom movie, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It was perfectly normal for those movies to drop a trailer like 8 months before the movie came out, or even a year before the movie came out. But nowadays, that is super rare, and that's a good thing, because it really was just wasted marketing money. It's better to save your marketing money and do a big marketing push like 6 months out from the film's release, instead of just like stringing it along over like a year or 8 months. Now, if I remember correctly, the Super Bowl is in February, so that would be 5 months before Brand New Day. And I think that little 5-month window there from February to July is when they are really going to go all in on Brand New Day marketing. So we'll get our Avengers Doomsday trailer this coming December, give everyone a taste of what's coming, and then in February, we'll get the Spider-Man Brand New Day trailer. And between December and February, I don't think we're going to get anything else like Spider-Man or Doomsday or anything marketing-wise. So Doomsday trailer December, Brand New Day trailer February, and that will kick off like the full, marketing mode for Spider-Man Brand New Day for those next 5 months, and until the movie comes out. And then when Brand New Day comes out, that will be 5 months until Doomsday, and I think that is when the big marketing push for Doomsday will happen. And that's when we'll see our second trailer for Doomsday release with Spider-Man Brand New Day. And Spider-Man Brand New Day will very likely have a major post-credit scene or 2 post-credit scenes to set up Doomsday. And that's just how they're going to do it. And that's the perfect way to do it. Doomsday, it's a film that it calls for, a year out teaser of, what's to come. It's a culmination event. Spider-Man, not so much. And I like that we are going to get a 5-month span for the Brand New Day marketing that isn't like drawn out, and that's relatively short and sweet. And I think that's the best way to utilize the marketing budget. And then the same will be true with Doomsday for the most part, when they really start marketing it after Brand New Day. And with the exception of the December trailer, this December trailer for Doomsday, I think, is really just hey, the Avengers are back. General audiences, get excited. You remember that big event film, those 2 big event films, Infinity War and Endgame? Have you not been keeping up with Marvel here lately? Well, guess what? Robert Downey Jr.'s back, and we're doing a fucking another Avengers movie. That's kind of what this big announcement thing is for, because really Doomsday has a lot more work to do, I think, in terms of reestablishing the brand. And we have to remember that Sony is heavily involved and gets the final say on like the marketing for Brand New Day, but I do think they'll certainly want to consult Marvel on like the most optimal marketing plan and probably use Doomsday and Brand New Day to kind of market each other, because believe me, Doomsday coming out 5 months after Brand New Day is going to do wonders for the Brand New Day box office, with it serving as the final film that leads into Doomsday. So yeah, I do get the question. I get feeling that, oh, it's a little weird, we're getting the Doomsday trailer first when Brand New Day is coming out first, but that really just makes the most sense. We don't need a Spider-Man trailer right now. That franchise is in a really good place. The Avengers and the overall MCU, however, they could use the boost. They're going to need a little bit more of a runway to get this thing off the ground, so it can do the numbers that they're really wanting it to do. So yeah, that's why. All right. Thanks so much for the question. And I also want to say, I am making my prediction. Brand New Day trailer, Super Bowl. You're welcome. All right, next we have a question from channel member Call Me John. 1, what are your predictions for which characters bite the dust in Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars, whether or not it's an in-universe or real-world reason? Ooh. Jeez, I'd love that question. I remember back in like the Infinity War days, making death prediction videos was this shit. And, I made 1 or 2, I'm sure. Okay, so, all right, let's do it. For now, let's just do Doomsday. Let's not do Secret Wars yet. So, who is most likely to die in Avengers Doomsday? Let's limit the discussion to only the confirmed cast, aka like the names that were on the chairs. And, I've been very outspoken about the fact that I believe Wolverine, Deadpool, Spider-Man, I think they're totally in Doomsday. But for now, that hasn't been confirmed. Let's just stick with the 27 names that we know are in Avengers Doomsday. All right, so I'm going to pull up my list that I can reference here. All right, number 1, Thor. No way. You do not kill Thor. I get the temptation to do it. He's an OG Avenger, but I think Chris Hemsworth and his portrayal of Thor are just too good to do away with. I think he's got another trilogy in him. I think the character of Thor, not on Earth, but out there as a cosmic character, would be awesome and a great recurring constant in this post-Secret Wars era of the MCU. And he's just too important of a character to have around to kill off. Number 2, we got Sue Storm, Invisible Woman. No, we already saw her die and come back in Fantastic Four. You don't do it again. She's too important to the future of the Fantastic Four franchise. Sam Wilson, Captain America. No, unless I could see them like continuing that shield paradox thing that we've talked about before, where, remember, we saw Steve leave to return the Infinity Stones in Endgame, and he did not have a shield with him. His shield got broken by Thanos in that battle. But when he came back as old Steve, he did have a shield, and he gave it to Sam. And I kind of fuck with the idea that old Steve Rogers, I like the idea of him, the life that he lived, part of that life having been him already fighting alongside Sam Wilson in Secret Wars, or in Doomsday and Secret Wars, against Doctor Doom. And maybe in these movies, we could see Sam die, and Steve takes the shield with him, the shield that his older self gave Sam. So Sam in his dying breath could give Steve the shield, and then he keeps it for the rest of his life. But then when he's old, he goes back in time and he returns the shield to Sam Wilson to complete that loop, making it to where the shield that Steve gave Sam in Endgame was really Sam's all along, and that Sam had given to Steve. Oh, that would be awesome. But then we get into what would that mean, like, for Captain America? Is Chris Evans just going to be Captain America again? And what about Anthony Mackie? Is he just gone now? I don't really dig that. I think Chris Evans should come back as Nomad and let Mackie keep being Captain America for a while. All right, number 4, Bucky Barnes, Winter Soldier. My wife is going to kill me, but yeah, I think maybe we see Bucky die. He's been a tortured hero, and he's an OG from Phase 1 who has a history with Tony Stark, who is now like Doctor Doom in a way. So we could see like Bucky finally get his ticket punched in Doomsday or Secret Wars. Number 5, Shuri, Black Panther. No, I doubt it. They already killed off T'Challa. They killed off her mother, the Queen. No. Number 6, Scott Lang Ant-Man. No. Number 7, John Walker, U.S. Agent. Probably. Number 8, Namor. I doubt it. Still too much to do with Namor. He's a mutant. We're going into the mutant saga likely, so no. Number 9, Ben Grimm, The Thing. Absolutely not. Same reason as for all the Fantastic Four. We're continuing that franchise, so none of the Fantastic Four. Number 10, Shang-Chi. No way. Number 11, Yelena Belova. No. She's got a great future in the MCU. 12, Beast. Yes, 100% could see Beast and many of the OG X-Men die, simply because we know that once the MCU resets after Secret Wars, we're getting a whole new X-Men. So this could be like the swan song and like for those original X-Men and feature a lot of their deaths. 13, Sentry, nah. 14, Joaquin Torres. Yeah, I could see them killing Joaquin Torres. Falcon as like a motivator for Sam. Number 15, Johnny Storm. Again, no, not killing any of the Fantastic Four, so Human Torch is safe. 16, Red Guardian. Yes, I could totally see him going, and that being a big driving force for Yelena, just like I think Joaquin Falcon, he would be a good driving force, like if he died, for Sam. And guys, there are a lot of characters in this movie. We need some fodder for Doom to kill, and they need to be people that'll have an emotional punch. So, you know, killing a character like Falcon, killing a character like Red Guardian, and the inspiration that would put behind Yelena and Sam, and maybe bringing them together, because remember, right now they're kind of divided over the whole Avengers thing, so that could be good. M'Baku, maybe, I hope not. 18, Ghost. Yeah, I could see Ghost going, but maybe not. I think they need to do a Thunderbolt sequel, so she'd probably be good to have around for that. Loki, no way in hell. They've killed him enough. They better not do it again. Professor X, you know, it's almost a joke at this point. Like with Loki, that Patrick Stewart's Professor X always dies and comes back. But yes, I do think that we could see him die yet again. Or, you know what? No, I don't. You know what? I do not think we're going to see him die again, because he's already died like 3 times. He died in Last Stand, he died in Logan, he died in Multiverse of Madness. So no. I'll explain why here in a second. Let me do Magneto first, though, and then we'll come back. So, number 21, Magneto. We've seen him die kind of in Days of Future Past, but not really. And I've talked a lot about how I think Ian McKellen's Magneto is in this movie. How I think Ian McKellen's Magneto in this movie is going to be an absolute badass and a major thorn in the side of Doctor Doom, as well as the Avengers of Earth 616. Because while Professor X, I think, is going to be team let's save all the universes, I think we could see Magneto be more in the realm of, nah, fuck them other universes. I'm protecting our universe, and if that means I gotta destroy other universes, fine. And then I think we'll see him, like, do what he always does, have his face turn, and then we'll see him ultimately decide to help Charles and the X-Men and the Avengers fight Doom. And I think Magneto will fuck Doom up bad. Like, out of all the heroes in this movie, in Doomsday, I think it'll be Magneto that comes the closest to actually beating Doom, but he'll die heroically. And then I think we could see both Magneto and Professor X return in the post-Secret Wars, like, mutant saga, and they could be portrayed by Michael Fassbender and James McAvoy. 22, Nightcrawler. Again, he's an OG X-Men. We're getting the reboot, so yeah, very possible that Nightcrawler goes. Mystique, same answer. Cyclops, same answer, but also, you know, damn, we've seen Cyclops die before in Last Stand, and James Marsden, specifically his version of Cyclops, died in Last Stand, and he kind of got a raw deal in those X-Men movies. So I kind of like the idea of him maybe just getting like a happy ever after in a different timeline. 25, Gambit, nah. 26, Reed Richards, no. Doctor Doom, number 27, no. He's going to be in Secret Wars. Does he die in Secret Wars? Yes. All right, thanks so much for that question, and thanks so much for being a channel member, which guarantees your question will be answered here on the show, if it's appropriate, of course. And hell, even if it's not appropriate, I'll probably still answer it. But thank you so much for supporting the show in that way. It makes it possible for us to keep doing the show. All right. Thank you all so much for watching this episode of Ask Colton. Thank you for submitting your questions to askcoltonnow@gmail.com. If you want your question featured right here on the show, send it into that email address, and maybe, just maybe, you'll see it featured here. If you want to guarantee your question to be answered, because we do get a lot of questions and we can't pick them all, but if you want to guarantee your question be answered, that is a perk of financially supporting the show through memberships. It's very much appreciated. And reminder, please check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Feel free to download or like or listen, if you're driving or whatever. It helps the show. So thank you so much for that as well. All right, I'm going to go. I love you guys, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
You're still here. It's over. Go home.